Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do start, let me say a few things. For those of you who think that I was going to release this series after I got done with one of my current ones, you would be correct. However, thanks to Blaze Hollow of the Blessed Heroes and I talking a lot about series today, I am going to be releasing this one a little bit early. At least the part 0 for right now. You guys might see me release a few parts of this, and then stop it for 1 second. However, I do have a plan for this series. Now, to those who are new, hi, it's Kirusho. Shit will get crazy. And to those returning, it's me again. Anyways, now, before I do begin, if I sound a little bit different or off, I am not feeling well today. But I do want to try and get some series out today. And I do intend to record. Now, with that being said, let us start over 200 years ago. There was a man named Sukuna, and he was dangerous. He had an iron fist ruling over Japan, and he completely changed the way people saw power. There were people being born with quirks, and it was believed that Sukuna manifested an ability that made him a literal god. There were people who worshipped the man, and he ruled over Japan for over 20 years before somebody managed to take him down, and law and order could begin to return to the land. Now, during his time, he murdered thousands, thought to be millions, and his chaos left an impact for people. However, that was not the only thing he left. He left behind multiple children, and he was quite busy. He got bored with power, so he turned to something else. I mean, it's simple. Strong, influential, can have anybody, anything he wants. He had the time of his life before being killed by a very powerful person. And his body, it was buried at a temple. However, people began to worship Sukuna, believing that this death will not stop him. They believe that he could overcome death. They believe that he will rise. They believe that something is prophesied to happen. And it revolves around that man, be it himself or people possessing his blood. Now, with that being said, the children of Sukuna, they formed, and they began to care and look after the family of this man. People began to flock to the temple, and Sukuna's descendants, they lived here. Not only did the government understand the threat these people could face, given the fact that they might have the same quirk as this man, but they had an agreement. Everybody who has a drop of that man's blood in their veins, they will get a pass. They have committed no crimes, no ill will towards man. If they follow some rules and guidelines, they are free. No jail time, no nothing. But the rules are simple. Stay at the temple, be buried here, and live your life. That's all they ask. Other than that, you are free as long as you do not commit any heinous misdeeds. And that was simple. The temple became a sacred ground for people who would follow and worship the family. And right now, years begin to fly. The myth and legend of Sukuna. Some theorize that he was just mythical. Some even believe that he was just a man. But others, they truthfully believe of the story of this guy. They feared him. And that you cannot lie about. Some people, they remember the days of that man, hearing stories and seeing the fallout. And then they watched it fall. And those people get a pass. They briefly forgot about him. And then there was Izuku Midoriya. The day that he was born on that temple's sacred ground. And it was quite a day. Deku, he was somebody special, and he was a new member to the family. Whenever he began to actually grow, whenever he began to walk and talk and begin to think, he heard the stories. They tried to drill into his mind the misdeeds of his ancestor. They tried to make it quite clear. However, there were others who celebrate that man, and the government, they don't like this. They have tried to nip this in the butt for over a century, but it has not taken. However, they believe that stomping out this quote unquote cult could become more fire to the flame. Yes, the following has died down over the last century, but it is still existent, and that is an issue. People serve the family, but that's all they do. They don't try to influence, they don't try to do anything. They do try to stay in the good graces, hoping this could hopefully give them mercy from him. And that is all they really try to do. And Izuku, he didn't know really what to think. He's heard his cousins talk about it, his older brother, and even whenever his sister was born, it was just weird. Their ancestor is buried at the temple. There's a lot of people buried here, but that just doesn't make sense. If Sukuna was such a bad man, why do people worship him? Why do people celebrate him? It just isn't clear. And there actually was the day that Deku, he had a doctor visit the temple. And that doctor told Izuku one simple thing. He was born without a quirk. Now, Deku, he was alarmed. He was diagnosed as quirkless. But all his cousins had quirks. His older brother had one. And that was definitely not good. His father and mother tried to comfort him, but Deku didn't know what to do. He just felt isolated. He felt alone. And Izuku, that day was the day it began to set into his mind. There is a darkness around this land. There's a lot happening on this ground that can't be explained. And for the first time, Izuku could feel that. He could feel the energy. He felt it just prevalently. He lost a lot of hope that day. He wanted to be a hero. He heard about hero society. He's gone out and seen pros, and he's even heard of villains. But with his family name, it's been drugged through the dirt because of his ancestor. A lot has happened. His family should rule Japan. That's all he understands. At one point, they were on top, but now they're being looked at as scum because of the actions of his ancestor. I mean, hell, living here, dying here, it just doesn't seem right. As Deku grew older, he began to understand that more and more. But there was that presence he felt, and there was even some stories he heard. As he got older, he saw his younger cousins begin to manifest abilities, manifest their quirks. He was alone, and there was even a few stories he heard. There's a lot that happens on this ground, and there was even the time they had to stay off of it for some time. Deku and his younger cousins, all of them, had to stay out of the temple. And that was because of one simple thing. There was a time something happened. There have been events that have happened at this temple for hundreds of years, ever since the day it was built, ever since the day his ancestor was buried on this ground. And that is believed to be the reason for many things. Though there's only one problem. Izuku wanted to see the grave for himself, but he couldn't find it. It's been made quite clear. The grave of Sukuna is not to be disturbed, not to be seen or looked at. There's a place down below in the basement you're not supposed to go to. But that's the issue. Sometimes people report hearing whispers. people report hearing strange sounds. And that day that they were off the temple grounds, somebody was cleaning. A woman hung herself in the temple. And her family, they served this family for a good number of years. They were faithful. It was so sudden. It just didn't make sense. And the day Izuku heard about that from one of his older cousins, he was alarmed. But what was more alarming was they were pretty sure they found the noose at one point. Deku doesn't know if it was a joke. He doesn't know if it was some just practical thing, but that's the problem. If it is real, it just adds more and more to the legend. People believe he'll return. But Deku, he isn't sure. Sukuna was a powerful person, but he doesn't believe he had a quirk. He doesn't believe anything about that. And there was even whenever Deku, he was 12 years old, and he felt like he knew how the world worked. Things are different, things don't make sense, people will look at you like a monster. His twisted mind just began to take shape. But he heard it one night. He got up and walked outside. And he looked up at the moon. It just seemed to be so bright out here. And Deku, he turned his head. Right now him seeing somebody at the end of the hallway. Them gonna turn and run off. And Deku, he could hear their laughter. Him gonna turn to follow. And this is where Deku, he thought he saw a girl. Somebody young. Somebody just his age. And Deku, after he rounded the corner, he didn't see them. Though he could hear it. That sound of footsteps. The dripping water. Where is it coming from? Deku gonna turn and continue to follow the path he was on. Right now him walking quietly past the rooms, not to disturb his family. In Izuku, he found his way to the bathroom, hearing that laughter again. In Izuku, he brought his hand up. Right now him going to softly knock on the door and not hearing a sound. But those where Deku looked down. Water began to pour through and it got into one of the cracks of the wood. And then just started to flow, and then it took a sudden turn. And Deku, he saw the path. He just didn't know what to do about that. What is happening? Now, Deku, he saw it begin to move down one of the stairs. And he turned his head. Him walking down the path as he went down the stairs and into the underground. Right now him beginning to look around. And it just didn't make sense. Okay, so there's a lot of things stored down here. But what's going on? Deku going to look around. He walks through the hallways. He sees a lot. He sees the wine cellar, some of the places they use for hide and seek. Then there's the utility room, and then there's a door. One that's been locked. It doesn't have a handle on it either. And Deku, he walks right up to it. He can hear the whispers. Hear everything behind it. It just sounds stronger and stronger. And Deku, he does stand there. Before going to walk over, bringing his hand up onto the door, and hearing a sound. Right away it's sounding like something that's dripping on the other side. Sounding like there's rushing water. And then Deku does get to hear a scream. Him gonna turn his head and look around. Before he's gonna turn and run back to bed. Him not too sure what that could have been. And it scared him. He tried to ask one of his cousins, but they didn't hear anything that night. They didn't hear a peep. There was no water on the ground, no nothing. it was just probably a dream, right? But he didn't believe it. He didn't believe it because he stayed up at night. He could hear that sound, that thing on the other side of the door, the thing in the underground. Whatever it is, it didn't sound right. And Deku, he tried to ask his father questions about it. But whenever it came to that door, his dad was stern. Never, never try to open that door. Don't go into that room. There's a reason why they took off the doorknob. There's a reason why they kept it shut. There's a reason why it should never be opened. And that was what his dad grilled him on this, wanting to know more and more. And a priest was called to the temple to bless it again. And Izuku, he just watched on. The priest was nervous. He talked about how there was a feeling in the air. Something bad happened here. And Deku, him and his cousins, they tried to go back to normal. But that was just it. Nothing could ever return to normal. This place is cursed, and everybody knew it. The grounds they live on, everything. And there was even where Deku, he was at the age of 15. On his 15th birthday, he actually began to understand. He heard the stories and the teachings of his family. Everything. His father decided to actually sit him down and talk to him about it. What happens on temple grounds isn't good. They have an agreement. They live here and they're buried here. Their family stays here and it's okay. Him and the 3 other families live here. And people take care of them. They're fed, they're clothed, and they're given the education they need. Izuku can go off to school and come back home. Just, that's it. But there's one thing quite clear. Anything that happens on these grounds, anything out of the ordinary, they talk about. They tell them, okay? And Deku, he just didn't know what to say. His father let him in on the truth. The story of the hanged woman is true. So is the story about the servant 50 years ago who went downstairs that one day, and when she came back up, she just seemed in a daze. And she drowned her children. And that alarmed Deku. And it just made a bit more sense. The laughing girl in the hallway. And Deku felt a chill up his spine. His dad told him more. Groundskeepers, you name it. People just suddenly snapping. It didn't make sense. They all just heard things in their head and it just flipped a switch in them. Sometimes it was slow. Sometimes it wasn't. And that's the worst thing. Anything that happens on temple grounds stays on temple grounds. But the phenomenon here, it's believed to be because of Sukuna. And Deku, the day he asked his father about this, the day his father told him everything, he made things quite clear. What lies behind that door is their ancestor's grave. It is sealed shut for multiple reasons. And that seal must remain that way. Always be upkept, replaced anytime strange things start to happen, and stay away from it. They can't lock out the underground completely. They just can't. Because last time they tried to do that, things just got a lot worse. And his father, he even told him some of the stories that he experienced whenever he was a child, on these grounds with his siblings, with his family. And that was certainly something. And Deku, he does sit there. Right now, him in his room trying to think. It just doesn't seem right. And there actually is Deku's brother, who does lay there next to him. Right now, him in a futon and gonna turn, asking Deku if he's alright. Huh? Yeah, I'm I'm fine, Hashi. Just I'm trying to wrap my mind around everything. Yeah, it's all a bit crazy, huh? I'm gonna turn and bring up his hand, expressing Sukuna, the guy they all get their blood from, the guy they call an ancestor, their great, great, great. Uh, does he know how many of those are in there? I really don't. Though, do you think that he did anything bad? What do you mean? I mean, he had power. He used it, but he didn't use it wrong, did he? Izuku, if you're asking me if I can defend the actions of him, I don't think I can. No. Okay. No, I've been thinking about it. People theorize he wasn't human. People theorize he was a monster. He just, he wasn't capable of a lot, but he was. Even quirks today aren't as powerful as he was. So he was a freak of nature? I don't know, Hashi. I just know it's a bit weird, don't you? I mean, do you think that All Might could have taken him down? uh, you're really trying to do that debate on me again? Come on. You know Yuki started that, right? She's a massive fangirl for heroes, along with Ayuma. True, true. Don't even get me started on that. Besides, Tatsu will start. Though, he is an Endeavor fanboy, isn't he? There, I think so, but I don't know. Besides, it's late. We should be getting sleep. I got some exams tomorrow and I really don't want to miss them. Him, gonna turn. Putting out the lantern and gonna express to Deku that they can talk more about it some other time. Though, trying to defend the actions of a mass killer, not a good sign. He knows that he feels a little left out. Though, just don't feel that way. They'll always be family, always be brothers. If there's something he needs to talk about, just tell him. Is that fine? You really shouldn't be serious. It's not a good look on you. Izuku, I I know you're still I know you still don't like that you're quirkless, okay? Deku staring at his brother. Him going to express. It's not his fault. He didn't choose to be born quirkless. I mean, having a quirk does suck. You can produce flames from your hands. Yeah, and I don't get cold during winter. Not the point. Listen, I have to be careful about what I touch sometimes. I'm just saying, I'd rather be normal. And I'd rather not know what normal is. I want to be special. I just I wish I was. You know? Yeah. Sorry. Maybe I'm just never mind. I gotta get to bed. Get to bed. I'm gonna lay down. And Deku, he does a turn. He's not sure. Sukuna, a powerful person, somebody who knew multiple things. But was he really just a man? I mean, he's read the stories, gone through everything. People watched that man's library burn. All the knowledge he had culminated. Everything. just everything that made him so him. I mean, knowledge lost to time. If if he had some of those teachings, what could he do with it? And that it does somewhat get to Deku. He wants to have power. He wishes he had power. And right now Deku, he does get to fall asleep. Him going to have a strange, strange dream. As right now Deku, he doesn't open his eyes. And sitting before him is a man. Right now him with a glass of wine in his hand and his legs folded over. As Deku stares up. And the man, he doesn't look down, staring at Deku and expressing. Right now his lips going to move, but Deku not hearing the words. He can give him what he wants. All he has to do is listen to him. Find his grave. Follow his teachings. He could make him powerful. All he had to have to do is understand more about him. Understand everything. His birthright is becoming like him. Find out where his ancestor failed and correct that mistake. Izuku knows deep down, in his heart, that nature he represses is something that he should embrace. Something that feels natural. Something that feels right. It's not something that you can hold back. It's not something that you should hold back. Give in to the dark. Give in to that nature and find him. Open the door. Let him have a proper conversation. Face. Right now I'm going to disappear. And popping up right in front of Deku. To face. And Deku, he doesn't don't jump up. Him, a lot more alarmed. And Izuku, he feels a little off. Though it's okay. Right now him, feeling his hands shaking. And that, it does worry him. As Izuku, he has to turn his head. Nobody else is awake. Let's see. Hashi's still asleep. I'm gonna get out of bed. And quietly move through the house. Him gonna turn and crack open a door. Mita is still asleep. So are mom and dad. Okay. Okay, Suku, just... It was a dream. Just go to the door and look at it. It'll be closed. Just gotta prove to yourself that it's not real. Deku gonna turn and quietly move. He doesn't know what time it is yet, but the sun, it's still not out yet. And Izuku, he does quietly move through the house, taking the same path he took years ago, and walking downstairs. Him, right now, walking underground and getting a whiff of the air. But something feels off about it. The smell. It's a little different. And Deku, he does get a turn. Right now him looking through the hallway and making his way down. Right now him walking past the corridors and the rooms. As he does a look down at the staircase. Right now him seeing that it's there. But there's... Was that blood? I'm gonna bend down and bring his hand onto what should be the regular staircase. Deku pulling his hand back and not seeing anything. Is it dry? But it doesn't even smell. What's going on? And Izuku, he does gonna walk downstairs. Right now him gonna come face to face with the door and seeing that it's cracked open. And Izuku, he doesn't bring his hand down. Him gonna grab onto it and still very unsure. Though he does hear it. That same voice that whispered to him at night. The same one that was in his ear last night, just a few minutes ago. And does get to express. It can help him be special. He just has to listen. Give in to his desire. Understand. He can do what he wants. return to their family to the throne, become like him. He could be an excellent sorcerer. And Deku, he does hear that word. Him intrigued. It sounds interesting. And Izuku, he currently does get a turn. Right now, him going to begin to open the door. As he does get a peek inside the room. The wall is covered in seals. The wall is covered in a lot. And there it does sit. The grave of his ancestor. It's just there. And Izuku, he does stare on. It's a tomb. It's so much. He feels something in this room with him and he doesn't like it. Deku going to close the door. Him going to quickly make his way back to the room. And Izuku, when he does it to get upstairs, there actually is his father, who does try to ask him exactly what he was doing down there. And Izuku, he does get to bring his hands up. Dad, hey, it's a long story. Do you mind telling me, young man? What were you doing down there? Dad, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep, okay? I needed a walk, okay? I just didn't know what to do. I had a nightmare. After everything you told me, I can't. What am I supposed to do? We live in a place where dozens of people have lost their lives. Do you have any idea how crazy that is? I do. I understand. But Izuku, did you go to that room I told you not to? No, I didn't. No. I'm gonna go down there and check something, alright? Stay here. Now, Hisashi is a turn, pushing past his son and quickly making his way down the stairs. And Izuku, he's concerned. His dad will see the blood. His dad will see everything. He'll see that the door is closed, but he'll see the blood and be confused. He'll freak out, probably punish him, and it does go through his mind. His heart pounding in his chest. And Hisashi, he does come walking back up. Right now, him expressing to his son to go back to bed. And if he's curious about it more, they'll talk about it more tomorrow. But for right now, that door stays closed. Does he make himself clear? And Deku is just confused. Did he not see it? But how? But what? And Hisashi, he does a turn. Right now, him escorting Deku back to his room and then heading back to his own bed. Because he had a nightmare of his own. And it didn't seem good. It just felt like there was so much there. The place covered in blood. The shrine destroyed and burned to the ground. The place wrecked. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And I do hope this part 0 does set up a few things. And with that being said, goodbye.